This is a steal for the Texans as Houston adds some depth to their cornerback room after losing Ronald Darby due to retirement. And this is what some people would say a controversial signing, considering this guy hasn't played football in the NFL in 2 years. So, player out of the Houston Roughnecks, played a little bit in the UFL. This is a lot, but honestly, I think it's a great signing, and we're going to dive into it today on Texans Digest. If you're new to the channel, 77% of you are not subscribed. If you would, hit that sub button to stay up to date with all Texans news. But if you haven't figured it out, some breaking news. Damon Arnette has signed with the Texans. Has not played since 2022, where he got cut from the Chiefs, a former first-round pick, and all signs are pointing up, considering the fact that this is a guy who was kind of looked like his NFL career might have been over, and now he's reordered his life in a path that he's done with his old ways. In terms of his quote, "I'm a dog on the field. I'm more professional now than I ever was before. I wasn't professional before. I was just a dog. I found professionalism and a calm state of mind. I feel like I'm the best version of myself that I've ever been." So that's very promising to hear from a player who, did not have the best history in terms of off the field in 2023. He was fined and sentenced to community service, turned over his gun, pled guilty to a misdemeanor charges of assault and drawing a deadly weapon related to an incident in Las Vegas in January of 2022. And that is where the Kansas City Chiefs decided to release him. So that's kind of where a lot of people will say it's controversial, because immediately they think Damon Arnette, they think bad news. But if anything, people can change. They could be a lot better. And trying to make a name for yourself in the UFL, trying to come back, he goes from the Houston Roughnecks to the Houston Texans. So that's awesome. But honestly, he had a good season with the Roughnecks, including this play.
Cook is on third down. Drives the ball, and that is intercepted by Arnette. Arnette on the return, cuts back, and it's a pick six.
A pick six for Damon Arnette. He had a great season with the Roughnecks, 5 pass deflections, that pick six, and although he hasn't played football in a couple years, considering he was cut by the Chiefs in 2022, didn't really even play that season, so kind of almost been 3 years, he has played on another level, the UFL. Not necessarily professional, but I feel like it's the closest you're going to get, and this is the type of flashes you see in a player like Arnette, and if he's able to stay on the field and be as professional player now that he says he is, and the Texans went in and did a visit with him, they talked to him, so they feel good enough to sign him. And honestly, it really isn't a terrible idea. I love this idea. All the coaches have been with him, and he feels like he's more valuable. So this is just awesome to hear, and it's a good turnaround story because it's a 1-year prove-it deal. He made his way back to the NFL, and he's probably not gonna play. Let's be quite honest. The Texans depth chart, it's pretty deep. You got some good players. Jalen Pitre will probably be that slot corner. You have Derek Stingley on the left, Kamari Lassiter on the right, and Arnette will probably back them up. That was the thing with Ronald Darby. You got him more as a veteran, somebody who can sit behind the starters and somebody who's done it for a while, a 10-year vet, and just talk to his teammates. So now that Darby's gone, you go out and get Arnette. I like the idea because you can never have too much depth, right? Cornerback especially, you do not want to have, knock on some wood, any injuries, right? Because it's a part of the game. You have to keep that in the back of your head, especially when the wide receiving room was very empty last year and the Texans just didn't have that much depth. So Nick Caserio has backed up this team with depth on depth on depth. So I really do love this signing. As far as his career on the Roughnecks, he's getting a second chance in the NFL. And 5 pass deflections, a pick six, 19 tackles. I mean, he was pretty good. So a prime example of let's see what Damon Arnette can do. Again, he'll probably rotate in a few snaps, maybe like 10 a game. I don't think he's going to see the field a whole lot, but we don't want to see anybody go down, and this is the depth piece that you need. So I love this. The Texans already have a deep secondary as it is, but it's also good to have some extra depth. So looking for Arnette to step it up to the level that he was supposed to be as a first-round pick on the Raiders. And just the amount of people that are talking good about it, and especially himself talking about how he's more professional now than he ever was, that's always good to hear. So Damon Arnette, we'll see what he can do, but it's really a matter of how does this look for the Texans, because this could just be a locker room problem if we're being quite honest, just because of the stuff off the field. We don't want that to distract this team. So Caserio brought him in for a visit. They saw something in him and said, you know what, we're going to give this guy a shot over, no offense, Jair Alexander is sitting right on the free agency market. I would have really loved to get a veteran like that, a guy who knows what he's doing, but he probably wants to go to a team that he can start on, and he also probably wants $10 million a year, which I don't think the Texans can offer him. But, I mean, Alexander is also linked to the Eagles now, so that's scary news for the NFC. But the Texans, they have the right squad around them. And talking about depth pieces, Caserio he's kind of proven the depth theory, I think, because you look at the team now, and this is a team that has a lot of depth, because Nick Chubb signing just a few weeks ago, Mixon and Chubb, all right, that's some depth. Let's go get some cornerback depth. Let's get some offensive line depth. The offensive line it's got depth everywhere. Cam Robinson, Ariante Ursary to back him up. Laken Tomlinson, yes, Ed Ingram, probably not the best backup right guard, but you traded for him. You got some depth piece. You got Juice Scruggs. You got Jared Patterson. Even Eli Cox, who was undrafted. I think he's a solid guy who can fill in at center. But the Texans have depth. They have Trent Brown at right tackle, Blake Fisher, who could also move inside of Titus Howard. So you have a lot of pieces. And this cornerback signing is mainly to depict the defense of if everything goes wrong for the team and the Texans cannot play their best on defense because of an injury or whatever worst case scenario happens, this is now the help that they need. So they did the same thing at wide receiver. They have so much depth at wide receiver. Justin Watson and Braxton Berrios won't even see the field. Arguably, Berrios could start on a slot for a team that needs a slot receiver. So the Texans are in business. They know what they're doing, and I love this Damon Arnette signing. Let me know your thoughts, because this is an interesting kind of pick and feel what the Texans season's going to be like. The main question is the offense. The defense is, I'm not really too worried. This signing is good depth, yes, but it's really a matter of can the offense kind of match how great the defense played last year. Because that's the expectation the defense has. And the expectation the defense is given, it's hard to replicate that. So hopefully the Texans can play as good as defense they did this year as they did last year. There's not many holes on defense. You have your team. You have DeMeco Ryans, man in the front on the calling the defensive plays. You got Nick Caley, a new offensive coordinator. This team is going to look a lot different. I'm really excited to see it. And the main question is, can you have a top 5 defense and a top 10 offense? I don't really need the offense to be top 5. I just need it to be middle of the pack, because the Texans' the offensive line was bottom 2. But the offense in general, in terms of yards a game, it was bottom 15, bottom 10. You can't be in the bottom 50% of the league. You have to be at least 50% or above. And the Texans offense was so highly mid last year because of Bobby Slowick calling those plays. And now you bring in Nick Caley, who's giving a lot more creative freedom to not only the players, but as well as your quarterbacks coach, Gerard Johnson. So very excited for this season. Damon Arnette, welcome to the defense. What's the biggest thing the Texans need right now? Because I really don't know. So let me know in the comments. What's the Texans' biggest need outside of maybe right guard and right tackle? I think that's probably your lightest position is guard and tackle, because Blake Fisher's apparently going to get the nod at right tackle over Trent Brown, which is fine. But it's a little bit scary knowing that the offensive line definitely isn't very great. But again, I've mentioned this. You don't need a great offensive line to be a top team in the league. So the Texans going to win the division most likely. Hopefully they can make something happen on offense. But just let me know your thoughts in the comments on what your concerns are for this team. What are you looking forward to heading into the season? Because it's going to be a fun ride, and I can't wait until I see the Texans in the postseason. That's for sure. I'm at least predicting a double-digit win season and a playoff berth for the Texans, because this is a great team. Stroud's going to go nuclear. It's the defense keeping up with the offense keeping up with the defense, and just having those good, both the offense and the defense needs to play well in order to be a good team, in order to go on a good run to win a Super Bowl. So thank you everyone so much for watching. A little bit of a shorter video, but it's a big addition in terms of the fact that Damon Arnette is now on the team. Could be a little bit of a problem, but they talked to him. He's a changed person, and that you needed somebody to fill the void of Ronald Darby. So would have hoped for it to be Jair Alexander or maybe even Stephon Gilmore, but got Arnette, and I'm not going to complain. I think it's a solid pickup. He definitely has a lot of juice left. Has not played in 3 years, but we'll have to wait. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Hit that sub button if you're new. It's been Mike Zanetti, Texans Digest. We'll see you in the next video.